understand, cars are far more than this. They are our history. They mark the moments by which we define decades. Cars are some of the most intoxicating, most beautiful things ever forged by mankind.
Cars are beautiful, awe-inspiring speed machines that are around us practically every day of our lives. It takes a special game to take the regular interactions of a person's day and make it interesting. Forza Motorsport 5 is a launch title and one of the first AAA games to hit the new console generation and the Xbox One, and it might just be that game. Racing titles, for me, are usually a little bit lackluster at best and boring at worst. But Forza uses the new hardware and new features of the Xbox One to bring a new experience that should be noticed for early adopters.
Everything is an icon these days. Phones, fridges, football players, but these cars really are. Remarkably, one man, the much-missed Carroll Shelby, had a hand in 3 of them. Shelby had won Le Mans and beaten Ferrari in an Aston Martin.
Forza is at its best when it focuses on the cars. The level of detail in every single vehicle is astonishing. The Forza Vista mode really highlights the detail to not only the outside of the car, but also to the interior. The mode allows you to comb over every single inch of every car and has recorded dialogue giving background information on every model. If you're even passively interested in cars, this mode is a fascinating look into the motorsport world. Forza Vista has been in past games, but this version, with the expansive list of car backgrounds and updated graphics, really advanced the experience from the past titles. Forza doesn't only focus on details in the visual department, it also takes a close eye into the mechanics of driving. Every car is like a puzzle to be unraveled. How is this car going to take corners? Should I have some extra assists on? These questions are different for practically every single car. The first time I fired up a souped up Mustang and watched the back end playfully drift around corners and constantly lose traction from the power under the hood, I was both terrified and delighted.
But driving a Grand Prix car, as my colleague Richard Hammond will attest, is not easy. He once said nothing could prepare your mind for the assault. For once, he wasn't talking nonsense.
Racing in Forza 5 pretty much works exactly like it did in the past. The different levels of assists, the credits to unlock new cars, and general racing habits all make a return from the past game. There is, however, one major difference that Forza 5 brings to the table. Everyone drives like an ass. The new addition of drive avatars is probably one of the most interesting and worst named features of the game. As you drive in Forza 5, the game will collect information about your driving habits, how you take a turn, how you pass, and how closely you stay to the driving line. This is then interpreted and used as AI for drivers for other people's games, with your gamer tag attached to it. This leads to races that feel more like multiplayer races than anything else. The amount of people that are willing to cut corners, drive aggressively, and stray away from the lines makes every race more interesting, but might not be every player's cup of tea. If you like clean races focused on professional driving, this game might upset you every once in a while. A nice thing to note is that the medal system is very forgiving for drivers. Depending on the race, there's usually some wiggle room for new players to not necessarily come in first, but still walk away with some decent experience. The medals, gold, silver, and bronze, are broken up into groups instead of just handed away to first place, second place, and third. Drivers who come between first and third receive gold, 4th through 6th silver, and 7th through 9th bronze. This makes the race more interesting and also puts less stress on the player, removing the need to restart at the first corner just because you didn't get it just right.
A Holden, that's like a Chevrolet or an Opel or a Vauxhall, or a Ford, that's like a Ford. It's a simple choice, steak or prawns, mate. Why make life complicated when the sun is shining and the racing is this good?
When I first saw the option for head tracking in the settings for Forza, I started to get really excited. I figured the feature would be a great way to show off the effectiveness of the new Connect 2.0. For the most part, the feature is less of a head tracking feature and more of a body tracking feature. Leaning to the left and right will make the driver look through the driver and passenger side windows. It is a fun little thing, but overall doesn't really do anything. There always was some issues every once in a while where the Kinect wouldn't see movement correctly and would get stuck leaning one way. This always made me inevitably crash and inevitably made me turn off the feature that could have been a step forward for the franchise. The multiplayer also seems to be a little bit messy with the new system. Filling a full party of friends in Forza is somewhat annoying. There doesn't seem to be a quick way to invite friends to a game, and a lot of multiplayer stuff seems to be hampered by the new Xbox One operating system. Launch games are always put at a disadvantage because of the new operating system, and the wonkiness of Forza 5 is a perfect example of this. There also is no quick way to get into a race, and races are split into a bunch of different categories. After playing multiple hours of Forza 5 multiplayer, I've still yet to have a race with a full roster of racers. Thankfully, I would rather be playing single player with the drivatars anyways, but it also feels like the multiplayer modes could be a letdown for some players.
There are sports cars and there are sports cars. Some of us will be lucky enough to drive a sports car, but only a very few ever get to drive a sports car. A one-off creation designed exclusively to race and to win.
Forza Motorsport 5 is by no means the pinnacle of video gaming. There are some issues with the new lighting effects, crowd sprites on the sidelines, and drivatar aggressiveness, but these mistakes are quite hilarious and almost charming to me. Tracks and cars from games past are missing, and a little bit more variation would have been nice. But all of the nitpicky stuff aside, this is still a fantastic game. The attention to detail in the tracks and cars makes up for the omission of days gone by, and is a showcase for the new console generation. Forza may not be perfect, but it sure is a hell of a good start for the Xbox One.